Baptists That Amish Chick. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Butterchurn Girls. We are talking today about the topic of what are the attributes of having a good friend. I think we've all had friends in our life or friendships where we're like, I felt like they were a good friend, but maybe it's not so much, or maybe it's not healthy, or maybe we're a little bit too attached, than like too much than we need to be, right? More than we need to be. And so we are each going to give you just some attributes that we think that is really important to us and have a healthy friendship. We've all gone through lots of relationships, friendships, breaking away from people, especially as we've broken away from our religions that we were raised in. I think that revealed, I'm making a total assumption here, probably revealed a lot of lack of real friendship that was happening. And so, yeah. What you guys got?
So I just, on that point of, the religions we were all raised in, because we were raised in very similar, like, although it was different, a lot of similar beliefs, like core beliefs. And it's so interesting when you're raised in a environment where everything is based on how same you can be, right? Like everybody has to look the same, act the same, feel the same, think the same, all same, right? You then think that friendship is based on what you have, what's same, right? How you think same, how you like, I'm going to look for somebody who believes exactly like I believe, who does things exactly the way I do, who like all those things, right? And that is one of the worst ways, I think personally, to find friends, because friends, iron sharpens iron, right? Like, isn't that in Proverbs where it says iron sharpens iron? But for some reason, I'm thinking it says something about so like a good friend or whatever, like sharpens another or whatever. Basically, the concept is iron, if you're sharpening iron with iron, those two pieces of iron are not the same. They're similar, like they have a similar where they come from, right? Which is for all of us, we all come from a good, kind, loving Heavenly Father, right? But we're not the same. And it's those very things that sharpen us, that make us better, because we learn from our friends, right?
Because you're never going to grow or change or be sharpened if you're around somebody who walks the same, talks the same, acts the same, thinks the same. Where's the room for growth? It's actually hindering you both.
You actually just become really judgmental of the people outside of you.
Yeah.
And then you form a cult, and then here we are.
And then we're back at square one. So this isn't about what not to look for.
It's true.
Yeah. But I mean, I think those are really good points to start with.
I think that actually was one of my points, is that for me is like, that's one of the biggest things, is having friends that you can be completely different from, where you can actually completely disagree with, and then be like, interesting, and actually being open to thinking about what you, even if they're like, I disagree with that, but let me think that through and understand why you think that way. Like, I look back at friendships that I've had for years and years and years and years that have now become acquaintances. And a lot of it has to do with, they watched my faith change. And so all of a sudden they like pulled back, and they would get on social media and be like super disagreeing and argumentative and stuff, right? And then
don't even tag you in the post.
Don't that was not a friend.
I know it wasn't. I was kidding. Don't even get the credit.
But being able to disagree on things, or to even have like tiffs or whatever, and like even Bethany and I the other day had to like talk something out, right? That was something that like something was said, and it was like, ouch, that kind of hurt, and then we had to like discuss it. And stuff.
Leslie knows.
Leslie have a great chat, but a whole conversation happened outside of there.
I said the same thing, just way less salty, which is shocking. Let's just put that out there.
Right.
Leslie wasn't the one who had the salty comment, and I was just like, they're gonna deal with that.
But that's the thing that you knew about a healthy friendship, where you're like, they're gonna deal with that. And we did later on, like, we had a conversation about it, and
well, I'm like, they're either gonna ignore it or deal with it. But I was like, I'll find out later.
But that is like, I think a key thing is, because when you ignore it, like, that starts to build up a bitterness in you, right? When you're not like actually dealing with things and like working through it and having a conversation. And even if you get to end, you're like, I totally disagree, you're able to be like, oh, I'm sorry that you felt that way when I said that, or like you're able to be like, all right, I disagree with you, but I'm going to try and see it from your perspective, like something of that nature. I think that's super important, because like you said, like being that sameness, I think that's super freaking toxic, and not a good place to, you may have friends that are super, have similar beliefs, something like that, but I remember I used to have friends that had similar beliefs, we supposedly had similar interests, we all did the same thing, like everything about us was the same. Whereas now I'm like, I have friends that have the same beliefs, but like completely different extracurricular activities, completely different like extra things that they like to do, things like that, right? some similarities, but like different things.
Well, I mean, think of the three of us.
yeah.
We do have a lot of things that are very similar,
Yeah.
but they're all done and expressed in different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think,
you think of things like Bethany and I work out together,
Mhm.
but you guys have traveled together.
Mhm.
But I haven't traveled together, but we haven't worked at like, we have things that all kind of cross that like bring us together. But I think when
Right.
you have differences in you, like that's how you're actually healthy. Because if not, I think you are going to end up, what is the word I'm looking for? It happens in parenting a lot when the parent becomes too attached and too like
codependent.
codependent. There's another enmeshment, right? You
Mhm.
can almost have this enmeshment happening, which is super unhealthy. So I think having those differences and then being able to actually talk about those differences, not ignore them, work through them, like that is for me one of the biggest things. Like, and being able to point things out. Like if I'm like, hey, to a friend, like that bothers me when you do that, I want them to be like, okay, and respect that, and not like, and like I understand
well, that's
that
your
I'm
problem. You need to work
that's
through
your
it.
problem, that's you or whatever, right? Because I've had those relationships too where they're like they get offended and defensive and stuff instead of being like, wow, I'm just trying to understand what you need or what you want as a friend.
Right.
And so did I make like 4 points? But actually
No.
3.5.
That's fine.
You're good. No, but like I think, do you have something to add real quick?
I do, but I'm just gonna let you go first.
Okay.
Because I'm a good friend.
Thanks. No.
so I had friends, other people go first. No, that's
I'm a good religious
Just so
friend.
she could squash the point here in a minute. No, I'm
No.
kidding. I'm kidding. She won't do it. She better not.
maybe.
No, like one of my points was kind of adjacent to that, like finding that person that you don't feel like you have to fit in
Mm-hmm.
to like be their friend, but to stand fully as yourself.
Yeah.
And they can understand that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I've been in friendships where I felt like I had to act completely different. And is that a friendship?
Mm-hmm.
No.
And like,
I
First off,
don't have
value
to
your-
not swear around you because are we friends then?
Right.
I know, I'm like, for sure. You're not a
Real.
good friend to me if I
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, are you gonna just chastise me when I do it? Because otherwise there's other people. Like,
Right.
sorry. But no, like finding that place where you can fully be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like, what's the point of a friend if you can't
Mhm.
be yourself, right?
Mhm.
And so I think like finding those things that are similar is awesome, where you can like, those are just some connection points. But if you have to like pull back pieces of you and accentuate pieces like other
To make
things,
it
or like
work.
pretend like this is a thing, where's the friendship, right? And how is that going to bring value to your life when you're not like being your full self,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I think
It's more
such-
exhausting than it's life-giving.
Exactly. And that's what I want to like surround myself with. That's what a healthy friendship is, something that is still life-giving.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go into your other point or do you?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I don't got one yet.
Just like I'm coming up with it.
I just keep getting more and more. I'm like, oh, I got another one.
Yeah.
I got another one. Oh, I got another one.
Yeah. It's so interesting how we all, like all of us here at the table have a value for authenticity, I
Mhm.
think is really what we're like, might be one of the words to describe it, because that's my biggest core value in a friendship, is someone who values authenticity and true authenticity. Like, I think authenticity can be such a buzzword and just thrown
Yeah.
out, and like taking a step back and what does it actually mean, and can I actually be that with this person? Like fully myself, fully who I am, and I don't ever have to worry that they're going to degrade me, that they're going to talk behind my back, because I think that's a big thing that happens in friendships is, and I've also realized, I think this is actually probably my second one, is somebody who doesn't talk about others, because I know if they talk about others, they're going to talk about me.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of time, like behind my back, right? And that's not a friend. Like, a friend is somebody to me who looks out for you, who has your back, who loves and values you for who you are, who knows you're a human, who's there for you and shows up for you when shit hits the fan and you're not your best self, or you don't, we all have those days, right? And who's like, I'm here for
Monday.
you, right? Monday.
Monday.
Berlin had one of those days Monday, right?
This conversation was supposed to be Monday,
Yeah.
but instead we needed tacos.
Right?
So
True.
I need
It's
my
true.
friends to show up to my house with tacos, so they did.
Yeah. And that's exactly
That's what a friend is.
it's true. Like, what, and I think
that's
it's
when we
kind of-
talked behind your back, but it was all about
Right.
tacos. So
It
don't
was.
worry.
It was. But like, that is the true test of a friendship, is when things get really hard, how is that person going to respond to you? What are they going to do? And on the point of, so authenticity for me, and then also honor, I think would probably be the other one, which also includes the like,
It ties in with also
yeah,
authenticity.
like, and also like not talking behind your back. Like that's a big thing for me, honestly. That's a deal breaker. Like if somebody is, I'm like, I can't trust you. We can't be friends because you're going to do this to me at some point. And I don't want that. Like, a friendship is supposed to be a safe place where you get to be fully yourself. And I think that, and never worry that that person is going to rat you out, is going to like talk about, you know, whatever the things that you tell them, right, that are personal, probably, or usually.
Yeah.
And so, but on the point of authenticity, really quick, like I think that I also look in authenticity in a friendship. Are we able to fully be ourselves? And also, like you said, Berlin, I find that my friendships have similar things. Like we have similar things that we like, that we have in common.
It's connection
And I
points.
think, yes, and I think you have to have that in a relationship. You have to have that in a friendship. Like the things we said in the beginning were like, if we can't be ourselves or we can't be different, then it's not a good friendship. I think that that's true. And I also think that you have to have things that you have in common or similar, right? However, I think that those things that you have in common or are similar have many different expressions of that root thing, right?
But I think that root thing is just like the first stepping stone, right?
Yes.
Like that's step one. That's not everything that the friendship is built on.
No.
Right. Just step one, because where's it going?
Exactly. And yes, exactly. To that point, like you have this thing that you have in common, but you value the different expressions of that thing. And I think so many times we can get into the mindset of like, okay, I have a value for this and this person values that same thing. So they're going to do it the same way I do. Like, or value it the same way I value it, or see it the same way I see it. And we think that this same thing, I don't think that we are always flexible enough to realize that core values or things we have in common can be expressed in a very different way. And it's still the same thing. And I think a lot of that can come from being taught like it's still a little bit of like religious coming in, right? Because that is religion teaching you like you can only think a certain way, like there is no other way to express this thing, and if you do, it's wrong, right? And so like that's not the way God operates. Like he has so many different ways to express something, and so many, like look at us. I mean, we're all his kids,
we're all
look very
expression of
different.
him.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say those are my two top things to look for when I look for like what a true healthy friendship looks like. And I love that we get like, I feel like us three have all been an experiment for each other in this area. Do you know what I mean? Like we all come from religion, right? And we're figuring out what we want, or we have figured out whatever. And I think that is such a cool thing that we get to be each other's guinea pig sometime. Like figuring out, okay, do I actually like this or don't I? Or like, what we know, like we're figuring out what friendship looks like, but we're all in it together, and we all, because we have core values that are similar.
Well, and it's allowing grace for ourselves to grow, but also allowing grace for the other people, right? To be themselves and be on their own journey, right? Yes. Because if we because I feel like if we put so much structure on it, where's the difference in the religion that we were raised in and what we're expecting out of our relationships? I think sometimes freedom is really freaking hard because there's, it requires vulnerability, and it requires like grace and allowing the other person to be themselves because they don't owe you anything. Right. And so I think allowing yourself grace is huge, but also allowing grace for the other person to be themselves and be on their own journey, whether that involves you or not. Right. And this is a conversation we'll get into later, but in a couple weeks. But I think that ebb and flow of friendship, like I have those friends who were like besties, right? But we're in very different places now. And it's not that the relationship ended. It's I'm allowing them grace to go and do what they want to do. But I'm also going to give myself grace to not play small and go after the things that I want to go for. And so when we do come together and we go for a drink, we go grab dinner, grab a coffee, pass each other, it's still like, hey, how are you doing? It's like time hasn't really passed, like we catch up. I still love those people. Right. And so I think sometimes we don't actually know how to handle those situations. And it's like, if there's distance, that means it's over.
Yeah.
Does it have to be? Who like, we didn't break up, right? Like this isn't that kind of relationship. And so I think allowing them grace to be on their journey, allowing yourself grace in that, and that flexibility to be on your own journey. Like freedom is scary, but like, or I say freedom is hard, but like it is a bit scary to be that vulnerable. But also whenever you like take all these other points into consideration, if it's a healthy friendship, your vulnerability, you're safe in that.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that point you made about the like giving each other grace in your journey, because I think that one of the biggest things in friendship that sometimes we don't realize as a society, even or just people, is that friendships evolve and change. Absolutely. Because people are evolving and changing. And I think sometimes we can be so linear or so like it's always going to be this way. And then when it's not, we're like, oh my goodness, we're breaking up.
And I catch myself like, in that still. Literally a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I'm like, you've got it. Like like when that does happen, it's kind of like, if you can catch that trigger, go, whoa, what do I need? Like, what assumptions did I make? What do I need to like work on in my mind, in my heart? Like, because there was something I was latching on to. Like, what do I need to? Because it is hard to like open your hand, right? Whenever you're wanting to hold on to something. And like, I think there's times to hold on, and then there's times to literally like just open your hand, right? Like you've got to, and I don't want to say let things go, but like
chunk them.
Yeah,
I'm going on that later.
That's what we're gonna call it, chunk it. No, I'm joking.
Just chunk them. Just chunk them. One to chunk a friend.
But I think it's really I lost it at chunk.
Sorry.
Okay, you were talking about keeping your hands open.
Oh yeah, but holding your hand open, where that's the freedom in the journey for them, right? That's allowing them the grace. That's allowing you the grace to like come in and out, right? That's that ebb and flow,
right?
Because there's going to be seasons where I'm closer to people, right, and further from other, you know, like it's just life.
And if our friendships don't evolve and change, then there's something wrong.
There is,
really, if you think about it. Like if you and I in Berlin in 5 years from now we have the exact same friendship,
still
there's something wrong. Like there's no growth. Obviously that plant is dead.
That's actually what one of my points is going to be, is that like you need to be around people that actually bring you joy, right? Like where you don't walk away and you feel like you've got to go home and like bitch to your husband about hanging out with them, right? Like and that you're growing in it, like that you are both constantly growing. Because I can look at, I mean, I'm sure we all have people in our life that look at like, oh, you know, this person, they're still best friends just like they were in high school, and not a lot has changed, and they're still the same people, and they still kind of like bitch at each other the same way, and like they have, you know, you haven't seen them learn how to like have disagreements and have discussions and honor each other's differences, and like they're arguing like sisters that are 14 instead of
adults that are 35.
Adults that are 35, but being like, oh wow, that's interesting that you think that, like I'm thinking a little bit differently, but that's cool, like for you, right. You know, they're not able to do that. And like that is a big thing for me, is I'm like, if my friendships aren't growing and I'm not seeing that person progress as well, like
there's something wrong.
Might need to chunk them.
And it's true. Like I think that, and we'll get into that in another episode, but yeah, I think like, do you guys have anything else that you want to add to this, or place you want to go? I mean, basically, let's go like summarize what we went on. So you said honor and authenticity. My first point was very long and dramatic, so I'm trying to even remember exactly what I said. No, there was a lot of it is about the differences, right? Like being able to have differences, and then being able to grow together. What did you say yours was? I'm trying to remember.
A place where you can be yourself, like fully yourself, and then allowing yourself grace and allowing grace for the other person. That's really good. Yeah. And we're still learning and growing ourselves. Like, you know, I think as we figure this friendship thing out and we give each other grace, like you said, you begin to get even more clear on what exactly, you know, and we probably all have more things than just these two things. Right. But these are like two of the most important, like top of the list. Stand at the surface for sure. Yeah. Our deal breakers. But you know what's so funny? Like, I'm going to add this in because I've been wanting to say it this whole time. Yeah. Authentic friendship is part of my identity statement. And I was like, Leslie, I literally sat here before I went, I don't know that I'll have anything to say. So stupid. That's part of my identity is authentic friendship. So like, I think that's so funny that like sometimes we forget. And I think that's part of us adding language to this. It's things that I've always held on to. I just didn't realize it and put language to it.
Right.
Right. Because I think it's so important to actually take the moment to add language to things because you can get so stuck in, I don't like it and I don't know why, but then you end up in the cycle and you find the same friend, different person, same friendship. And like, it's this vicious cycle. And so,
language puts clarity and definition to things.
When you give it a few minutes,
right?
Give yourself a few minutes to figure that out and add language to it, because there's so much more benefit on the other side of that few minutes that you sit there and spend that time to figure out. And especially if you're desperate to see change.
Yeah.
Not only even in yourself, but in your friendships.
Yeah, I think a lot of women are too, which we're going to talk about this topic of women and friendships specifically. But I think like we so often hear like it's so hard to make friends as an adult woman. Is it though, or is it that we're not stopping to analyze ourselves? Like maybe it's not the other people it's a problem. Maybe it's us as ourselves that we're not like analyzing what do I actually want in a friend. Am I just hanging out with this person because they also have kids the same age and we go to the same church, or we're in the same singles group, or that, you know, like we grew up together, or, you know, we work out at the same gym, whatever it is. Like, are you just grabbing on something like that? Like, oh, we should be friends, like, because we have this one thing. And so instead of analyzing yourself, like, what do I actually want in a friend? What do I need in a friend?
Like, figure out how much effort you're willing to put in, because friendships aren't effortless. Friendships are not effortless. It takes things on your part. And here's the deal. And here's something I need to work on. I'm realizing, because like you were talking about, like on Monday, you're like, I need my friends here with funny stories, good vibes, and tacos. Like, you knew exactly what you needed. And you guys ask me a lot. You're like, what do you need? I'm like, I don't fucking know.
She literally says it just like that.
I don't know what I need. And so like putting that effort in for yourself as well. Like, sit down and figure it out. Figure out what you need in a friendship, and like also figure out what you're willing to spend. Like, I know that sounds so weird.
Like, how many tacos are you willing to buy? Are you willing to show up with twice the tacos that we need?
Because that's what I did.
But like, what are you willing to like? What ways are you willing to put yourself out there and express friendship to somebody else? And are you only willing to express it the way you want to express it, or the way they need it? Because there's a lot there, right? That's loaded.
Yeah.
So take that and chew on it for a minute.
You're hitting on one of my points that I feel like is super important too.
Do it.
Know what also your friends need and want in a friendship too. Because like you're talking about that, like how much are you willing to put in? There's nothing that will make me drop someone as a friend as if I text them 2 or 3 times and they aren't responding. Like there's a whole trend. I'm sure you guys have seen the trends on social media. Like, I answered 5 times in my head, but I'm just so busy. No, I still love you. Do you? Like, if your husband called you 5 times and you just kept ignoring him, like, what do
I
you
need to
feel
know that
loved?
I'm a priority.
Yeah, like
to a degree. Like, here's the deal. I don't expect to be your top priority, because I know you're married. I know you have kids. I know you have a career. I know I know that I'm not the only person in your life, but I also want to know that I have some level of importance. And
I text you
some
twice
level
in a
of
week,
priority.
you should respond. Like, yeah. Like, you're gonna forget once, okay, but like if I text you again, like,
and like, so on that point, one of my friends the other day made such a good point, because I was talking, because I'm literally going through some of this myself right now, of like, why am I in relationships? Am I in relationships because I feel like I need to do things in order to have the relationship? Or is it because I genuinely feel like we love each other and they love me, not because of what I can do for them, but because of who I am, right? And some of that has been my own conditioning from the past, where I felt like I had to do in order to be in a relationship. That's a whole toxic thing, right? So I was actually putting that on people, and I was probably attracting people because I had a landing spot for that in my life, right? So those kinds of people who like have that value of you need to do in order to be in a relationship with me, I was probably pulling them into my life.
Frequencies matched.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, doing heart healing around that has really helped me to not have that landing spot anymore. And then like, I don't attract those people anymore, right? Like, there's nothing there. But one of my friends said, she said, you know, because I was talking about looking at like letting people be who they are and figuring out like how much are they bringing to the relationship, right?
Mhm.
And how much do I need to bring, right? Is it a 50-50? Is it an 80-20? Is it a like what? And she was like, who said that you have to make up for the difference? Just match them. If they're bringing 20% to the relationship, you don't have to make up for their 80%. You can bring 20% to the relationship and then let that gap be a place where y'all figure it out. And if they're not willing
Mhm.
to go up in the percentage, then you know that this probably like not. And I was like,
Then you can
oh
look for
my
that
gosh.
80% friend that's going to give you 80%. And then
Right.
like-
But how much like just pressure it takes off of you to have to make up for other people in the relationship.
Why should
think-
you be two people in the relationship?
Well, and I think we can be so uncomfortable with that gap where we're like, we see the gap or we see where things aren't being filled, but we also have to look at the other person and be like, what they bring to the relationship, is that valuable for me? Is that enough for me?
Mhm.
Because they bring something very differently than I bring, right? So we bring these two different things to the relationship. Are we okay with that? And do we value it? And do we want it, right? And if we do, that's good. Realizing they bring something completely different. They're not saying they bring a dynamic or an aspect that I don't have. And then like the percentages, how much are they investing? I don't have to do more than them to make up for that. Like if they're only investing 20%, I don't have to make up.
Right.
It
I
doesn't
can
always
just
have to
match.
equal 100.
No, I can match their percentage.
It shouldn't. It's unhealthy.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
want.
The 100 that you invest in that friendship needs to only be the 100 that they give to.
Exactly.
And if it's like that 20%, then it's 20%.
If it's
You know what I
20%,
mean?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
I think percent.
Whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
using percentages as like a.
But like, I think so often we can be like, and this goes even beyond friendships, right? Like,
Mhm.
well, they only gave 50%. And so like, there's going to be an ebb and flow there too,
Mhm,
right? Like,
mhm.
yes, I think
Right.
if they spend the majority of their time at 20%,
Match it.
right?
If you
But
want
then
that
there's times where
relationship.
it's like, hey, I need to go above and beyond, or
Mhm.
hey, like I need more. Like I
Right.
need, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we just as humans get so stuck in black and white
Yes.
that
Yep.
we miss like it's that freedom piece that can be
Mhm.
scary because we like the structure.
Yep.
We like the guarantee, but
you don't have a relationship then. You only have a structure that you're having a relationship
you have a
with.
contractual agreement.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're like basically signing a contract with somebody, and if anybody breaks the rules, then we don't have a contract. Like
Yeah.
freedom isn't easy, and it isn't easy, and it's not always simple.
Mhm.
But those are the very reasons that it is so valuable and powerful.
Mhm.
Because it isn't easy, because it isn't always simple.
Mhm.
And like it's a journey. It's not a like we have this and like then it's always a journey. Friendship is always a journey.
Mhm.
And if it isn't a journey, then I'm really sorry. Like we should probably take a step back.
Mhm.
'Cause that's codependence.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
and that's like you probably might have a contract, or you might be codependent, or there might be something unhealthy going on here if you're not allowed to go on the journey with the other person and discover what that relationship is like or
Mhm.
could be. So
It's good.
Yeah. Well, guys, join us next week. We're going to continue this conversation on friendship. Did you know it's Friendship Month? All
Oh, it
month
is.
of
That's
September.
right.
It's
Yeah.
Friendship Month.
happy
So,
Friendship
hey,
Month.
by the way, that's why we're doing this. So we've got friendship topics all month. We've even got a really awesome special guest later this month.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Guys,
Genius special guest.
Yeah.
keep tuning in every week. It's amazing. We've got a lot of great things coming for you. So we will catch you next week. See ya.